examination of the disproportionate African American males into the California special day classrooms. Again, I want to give acknowledgments to my dissertation committee for their comments, feedback, and all of the support that you've given me on this journey. I also would like to give an appreciation and acknowledgement to the School of Education here at Augustine, and to my family. They are not here, but my son and my friends that have motivated me and supported me, and sometimes I felt like giving up. Okay, we start out with the introduction, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, which is known as the IDEA law. It was designed for the particular purpose to ensure that students with disabilities would receive a free and appropriate education. Okay, this law was passed in 1975 and is known as PL 94-142. And as I said before, it was for the purpose of making sure that students would be able to go into the public school system and receive a free and appropriate education. Why? Because we had a lot of things that were going on in which they were being denied the opportunity to be able to go to public school. We also had what was called the Public Law 105-17, which was passed in 1997, and it was for the purpose of expanding these services. But in the process of all of this happening, disproportionate placement and overrepresentation of African American male students were in the K-12 system. They started having these critical issues of overrepresentation and disproportionate placement. So something had to be done about it. So in 2004, they passed a new law under the Bush administration, which was known as the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, and it was for the purpose of working on the issues of disproportionate placement and overrepresentation. All right, and so this act was for the purpose of making sure that the school districts and the schools was held accountable for the issues of overrepresentation, and they had to report to the government on what was going on in regards to this overrepresentation and disproportionate placement. Okay, so when inappropriate referrals and erroneous determination of students' abilities require special education and related services for students, especially when they do not need those services, then what happens is that you have one group, or sometimes several groups, that are placed as a special education when they really do not need to be there. And so you have to start wondering what is going on, why is this particular group being placed in special education more than other groups. Okay, in the study, I used the culturally responsive teaching theory, the culturally relevant theory, and the critical race theory to look at the reasons why this was happening. And so by using that, I implemented how they can be implemented into the general education program and how they play significant roles in preventing overrepresentation and disproportionate placement of African American males in the STC classroom. So what I did was that I conducted a mixed method approach. This is a phenomenological study. It was devoted to examining the biological data information on the 10 students, the demographic data, and the experiences of the African American male students in the SLD special education program. And I chose two high schools. One was High School A, I'm naming the pseudonym, and High School B, located in Southern California. Okay, now the culturally relevant theory is the belief that instructions must change to boost the achievement of minority students in ways that respect their race, their ethnicity, and their culture. The culturally responsive teaching theory talks about the academic achievement of students and how it will increase if the schools and teachers would reflect and draw on the cultural and language as a strength for these students. And so that's the reason why I use that in the study, because as I said before, if implemented in the general education classroom, these theories would play a significant role in preventing and reducing over-representation. And the critical race theory was for the purpose of bringing to the forefront of why they were going through these issues of over-representation and disproportionate placement in the classroom based on what is happening in the culture in regards to the critical race theory. Okay, I have the research questions that I used. They guided my study completely. And according to Schwann, traditional phenomenology focuses on the experiences of everyday life as it is internalized in a subjective consciousness of an individual. Phenomenology typically involves the exploration of life world of a group of individuals, but often focuses on only a small portion of the life world. So what he's saying here is that Schwann is saying that when the live experiences of the students, I'm focusing with them on just a small portion of what they are experiencing. Right now is SDC. That's their world. And they have to go to those classes every day. They have to be in those classrooms, and they have to face the issues of what's happening in the classroom with them. So I'm using a small group of students looking at their live experience in the classroom so that we can look at those experiences to see how can we help them so that we can see about maybe working up something that will bring a solution to the problem. So research question 1 talks about, does the data at the Pacific Target High School support or disprove the existence of overrepresentation and disproportionate placement of African American males in the special education SDC programs? Research question 2, what are the experiences of African American males in special education, Pacific Learning Disability programs? And research question 3, what do African American males think about the type of education they are receiving in special education? Okay. All right, the purpose of the study is to examine, as I say, the disproportionate representation of African American males in the high incident category of the Pacific Learning Disability program, and also look at their experiences, and also look at, are they receiving the type of education that meets, the standards that the general education students are receiving. Okay, you have 13 categories in special education, and SDC, or which is quoted SLD, Pacific Learning Disability, and SDC are one and the same. Okay, and these students are supposed to be academically challenged or have academic disabilities only. Okay, so of those 13, I chose to use the SLD because the issues of overrepresentation is very high in that area nationwide. The importance of the study is that the study is unique in that it may serve as a tool in the form of a phenomenological by examining the actual lived experiences of the African American male participants, as well as I correlated these experiences with the parents, the teachers, the administrators, and the school psychologists, and how this could be done to reduce the overrepresentation and disproportionate placement of these young men in the SLD program. The delimitation of the study, which of these 10 African American males, is that they are the largest percentage of the disproportionality and overrepresentation. So by choosing them, I eliminated the males of diverse ethnic background, the African American females, and the other categories of special education disabilities, such as MMR and ED, and orthopedic disabilities and so forth. All of those were not included. The participants of this study are all students in a district in Southern California at high schools A and B. Now, the limitations of the study is that the participants and the narrative expressions may be limited to the researcher's ability to use strong descriptive language in order to accurately report the experiences. I made sure I tried to use discretion with the type of language that I was using so that it wouldn't create any kind of problems with anyone, and that's what I mean by that. Also, the limitations is that the sample population eliminated the higher functioning students known as RSP, and also the lower functioning students like MMR and so forth. I'm not saying EDD for the lower function because a lot of times the EDD students are students that have high capabilities academically, but they have emotional problems. And a lot of times sometimes it's just behavior, and that's not really emotional problems, and they are put in that category. Also, the limitations is that the participants in the study were secondary students and in grades 9 through 12. And so I'm eliminating the males in elementary and middle school. The study depended upon the honest responses of the participants while sharing their experiences. I had to depend on that. And also, since the study and the experiences are specific to the participants in question, the reproduction of the study for a larger population probably might have a different outcome. All right. And lastly, since the student participant shared experiences from the past, things that had been happening to them, like from kindergarten on to the present, that they may not be able to recollect or remember some of the things, but they was giving me what they could remember best of all. Okay, the literature review. In the literature review, I started with the background of special education in the United States and how it was significant in the educational system, and how the issues of overrepresentation and disproportionate placement came about and created the situation that we're having right now that's continuing to exist. Also, the aftermath of slavery, racism, and inequality has left a negative impact on the plight of African American males in the educational, social, and political levels. So we have having the bias and racial dysfunctions that have become prevalent in the United States is one of the reasons why we are faced with this issue of overrepresentation and disproportionate placement of African American male students especially. Okay, it's important to note that the challenges have significantly increased the overrepresentation and disproportionate placement of African American males in the special education system. So serious implications result from the overrepresentation of these young men or these students in special education, and have been shown to cause harm to many African American students nationwide, and this is by the Office of the Civil Rights in 2009. Put that out. Continuing the literature review, we see, and when we review also, the review also revealed that the problem of disproportionality in special education, the critical race theory, the culturally responsive teaching theory, and the culturally relevant theory, it revealed that disproportionality does exist, and that there have been some things that have been done about it, but they have not been done on the level of the unique study that I have been doing, in which we're looking at the experiences. So the literature review emphasized how placement in special education also stigmatized African American males and caused them to have the problems that they are facing. That's not only going to be with them in special ed, in high school, but follow them as they graduate from high school. Now, the conceptual framework foundations of this study is, as I said before, recapping, the critical race theory. I used the Derek Bell Reader, the culturally responsive teaching theory by Geneva Gay, and the culturally relevant theory by Gloria Latson-Billy. I also used in my literature review information in regards to the Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954 as it related to segregation, because when you take students and put them in the SDC classes, a lot of times when they don't really need to be there, we're looking at another form of segregation. And this segregation has a tendency to keep them from being